So alright, let's talk about quadratic equation. Okay, now the general quadratic form is ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0. Why do we know that this is a quadratic equation? It's because the highest power of x is 2, so it's a quadratic equation. So in solving quadratic equation, the method we have 4 methods. Okay, for your level, 4 methods of solving quadratic equation. The first one is the factorization method. Factorization method. So for factorization method, let us solve some questions there. We have 4 of them, so we're going to treat the 4 of them. So let's solve some questions for factorization method. I have x squared minus 6x minus 7 is equal to 0. We are asked to factorize this. How do you factorize? The first thing you do, please, is multiply the first person and the last person. We are going to have what? Minus 7x squared. Okay? Now, you need 2 factors from this minus 7x squared to replace this one in the middle. And how do you find it? By sharing it by LCM. Minus 7x squared. 7 divided, have what? Minus x squared. X divided, have minus x. Minus x divided, have 1. Okay? So, I am using minus to divide. For the last, whenever your answer, what you are dividing has minus, please use minus lastly. Okay? So, form 2 groups from here. This one is very obvious. The 2 groups you can form is can form this, and each group must have x. Each group must have x. So I'm having, let these 2 be one group, leaving this one to be another group. So 7 times x is what? Plus 7x, leaving minus x as its own group. Both of them is giving me 6x. Okay? If you look at what I want to replace it with, I want to replace it with the same 6x, but the problem is that this one is plus 6x, while this one is minus 6x. So anytime the problem is the sign, just come here and change the sign of everybody. If I change the sign of this one, I'm having minus 7x. Change the sign of this one, I'm having plus x, is equal to, change the sign of this one, I'm having minus 6x. As simple as that. So anywhere I see minus 6x, I'm going to put minus 7x plus x. So I'll bring down x squared. Instead of writing this, I'll write what? Minus 7x plus what? X. Then minus 7 is equal to 0. Now look at that. So since immediately you have replaced, open 2 brackets. I see that. What is common between these 2 people is x. X squared divided by x. X is remaining here. Minus 7x divided by x. Minus 7 is remaining. Anything that is here must be here. X minus 7. How do you get the person that will be outside? Because everybody will have someone that is outside. Just say the last number divided by the last number. So minus minus is plus. 7 divided by 7 is 1. You have gotten what is outside. Now the next line is, what is common between this line and this line? What is common is that x minus 7 is common. And the remaining thing now is what? X plus 1. And is equal to 0. Okay? So now when 2 things are equal to 0, it means that one of them must be 0. So I'm having x minus 7 is 0, or x plus 1 is 0. So what do we have now? Collect like terms. X is equal to 7, or x is equal to minus 1. So that is that. Now there's another method of solving factorization that you need to know. If I have x squared minus 6x minus 1 and minus 7 equal to 0. Now another method is the x method. Okay, this one may be a little bit critical for you, but let me just show you. The x method said share this into 2, and the only thing we can share here, x squared, is x and x. So x here and x here. Now share this one into 2. Minus 7 is only minus 7 and 1, or 1 and minus 7. So I have minus 7, or let me say 7 and minus 1. And anything you are doing, check if you are getting what is here. X times x is giving me this one. 7 times minus 1 minus 7 is giving me this one. Okay? So now the next thing you do is to check. You want to check. If you are checking, you will see, you do that cross multiply like this, that you have. This times this, 7x. this time this is what? Minus x, and both of them is giving me what? 6x. It did not give me this, and I thought that if the sign is the problem, change the sign of everybody. So I'm going to have minus 7x plus x, which will give me minus 6x. So what can help me get that is by changing the sign of these people. So this one will go up, y plus will come down. Okay, so that's the only thing that will help me. If you check it, this time this is minus this, and this time this is plus this. So immediately you have gotten exactly this same number here. Okay, your answer is now this and this and this and this. So my answer is now x minus 7 and x plus 1 is equal to that 0. So finally, x minus 7 is 0, or x plus 1 is 0. So what do you have? X is equal to 7, or x is equal to what? Minus 1. So that is that. Let's solve the second question. By the time we solve like 3, 4, 5 questions, you understand. Okay, so the next question, number 2. Okay, the second question said 15 plus 7x minus 2x squared is equal to 0. Okay, now arrange it in a way that x squared will come first. So let me take everybody to this side because it's negative and I want it to be positive. So take everybody to this side. This one moving here, I'm having 2x squared. This one moving here, minus 7x. This one moving here, minus 15 is equal to 0. Now, the same method, this times this. So what do you have now? You have a minus 30x squared. So find it. Minus 30x squared, 2 divide, minus 15x squared, 3 divide, minus 5x squared, 5 divide, minus x squared, x divide, minus x finally 1. Now, I'm looking for two things that I'll use to replace this man, minus 7x. So two group, and each group must have x, don't forget. So I'll say, let me take 2 and 3 with x, and then take 5 and x. 2 times 3, 6. 6 times x, 6x. And I'm not taking 5 times minus x, minus 5x. Both of them is giving me x, and this is not x. So this combination is wrong. This combination is wrong. So which means let me check another combination. I can decide to take 2 and minus x, leaving the rest. 2 times minus x is minus 2x. Leaving this one. 3 times 5, 15. 15 times x will give you what? Plus 15x. Both of them is giving me what? This and this is giving me 13x. And this is not 13x. So this combination is equally wrong. So let me now take 2 and 5. With what? With x. Leaving only these two. 2 times 5, 10. 10 times x is what? 10x. 3 times this will give me minus 3x. And both of them is giving me 7x. So the problem now is negative. So I will change the sign of everybody. Minus 10x plus 3x is giving me minus 7x. So anywhere I see minus 7x, I'll put what? Minus 10x plus 3x. So I'll bring down 2x squared. Instead of writing this, I'll write minus 10x plus 3x. Bring down minus 15 is 0. Okay? So what do we have now? Immediately you replace, open 2 brackets. What is common between these two people is 2x. 2x squared divided by this, I'm having x here. Minus 10x divided by this, I'm having 5. Anything that is here must be here. X minus 5 must be here. So what do you have? How do you get the person outside? The last divided by the last. Minus minus plus 15 divided by 5, 3. So what is common between this line and this line is what? X minus 5 is common. And what is remaining? 2x plus 3 is remaining. Is equal to 0. So what do we have now? That x minus 5 is 0, or 2x plus 3 is 0. So what do we have now? X is equal to 5, or x is equal to what? Minus 3 over 2. Okay? So let me still solve it by this method. This method as well. So I'm having 2x squared minus 7x minus 15 is equal to 0. This same method. Share this one into what? 2x and x, so that this time this is giving me this. So I'm sharing this one into 3 and 15. Yes, now that's the only thing. 3 times 5 is 15. So 3 and 5. 3 and okay, let me say 5 and 3. 5 and 3. Let's check what will happen. Do that cross multiply. That is your check. In fact, okay, sorry, minus, because it will correspond to minus 15. So let me check. This time this is giving me 6x. This time this is giving me minus 5x, and both of them is giving me x, so it's not correct. So let me swap it. I will swap it. I'm having minus I'm having 3 here, and I'm having minus 5 here. So let me swap it and see what will happen. If you swap, this time this is giving me minus 10x. This time this is giving me plus 3x, and both of them is giving me minus 7x. Exactly this. I thought that immediately you have gotten exactly this, your answer is simply these two and these two, which is what? 2x and plus 3, and what? X minus 5 is equal to 0. So your answer is simply these two and these two. That is your answer. So what do you have now? 2x plus 3 is 0, or x minus 5 is 0. So therefore x is minus 3 over 2, or x is equal to 5. So that is that. This method is short, but to get this thing sometimes used to take time. But this one is always very easy to get. So I advise you use this method, please. Okay, that is for factorization. So we go to the next one, which is completing the square method. Completing the square method. Now, first of all, what is completing the square? Completing the square simply means find half of the coefficient of x, square it, and add it to both sides. If you can say it, you can do it. Find half of the coefficient of x, square it, and add it to both sides. If you are using y, you say find half of the coefficient of y, square it, and add it to both sides. So I have this thing. I have ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0. Let us now derive the quadratic formula using this completing the square. Please don't forget what is completing the square. Completing the square is what? Find half of the coefficient of x, square it, and add it to both sides. So that is what we are going to do here. But before you complete the square, the coefficient of x squared must be 1. The coefficient of x squared must be 1. And you will be having those people with x in one side. That's all. We must be having those people with x in one side. So the first thing, to make this thing 1, divide everybody by a. Divide by a. Okay? If I divide by a, I'm having x squared over a plus bx over a plus c over a is equal to what? 0 over a. So I'm having this cancel this. S squared plus b over ax plus c over a equal to 0. Okay? Now, the coefficient is now 1. The only problem is that I want all the people with x to stay one side. So this man should move to this side. So I'm having s squared plus b over a x is equal to what? Minus c over a. Now, I can do what is completing the square. And what is completing the square? Completing the square means find half of, what is the coefficient of x? B over a. Find it, then do what? Square it. And of means times. So 1 times b, b, all over 2 times a, 2a. I have found it. The next thing is do what? Square it. Now carry it and do what? Add it to both sides. So I'm having x squared plus b over ax plus b over 2a, all squared. I have added to this side, so I need to add to the other side as well. Is equal to what? Minus c over a plus, add to this side again, b over 2a, all squared. I have added to this side, two sides. Now after adding to two sides, the next thing you are going to do is what? Factorize here. This one has squared and this one has squared. Put them in one house. X has squared and b over 2a has squared. Plus is in their middle. Everybody should have squared outside, showing that everybody inside here has squared. Forget about the one in the middle. because if you open here, you will still get that one in the middle. So forget about that one in the middle. Is equal to what? Minus c over a plus, clear this one. We cannot do the same thing here because this one does not have square. So clear this one. B squared will give you b squared all over 2 squared will give you 4. A squared will give you a squared. So now let us solve this side by LCM. I'm having x plus b over 2a all squared is equal to, the LCM of a and 4a squared is 4a squared. Now 4a squared divided by a is 4a. 4a times minus c, I have minus 4ac plus this plus in the middle. 4a squared divided by 4a squared, 1. 1 times b, I'm having what? B squared. Now in mathematics, instead of having minus 2 plus 3, it's better you write it as 3 minus 2. So let me rearrange this one. So I'm having the same x plus b over 2a all squared is equal to, rearrange to have what? B squared minus 4ac. Everybody over what? 4a squared. Okay? So the next thing you are going to do is what? Now, since you have solved here to be in one fraction, let's square. Cross to the other side to become square root. So I'm having x plus b over 2a is equal to the square root plus or minus of b squared minus 4ac all over 4a squared. If you notice, my square root covered everybody. Okay? So I'm having x plus b over 2a is equal to, now plus or minus, my square root will now be short, b squared minus 4ac all over. Why is my square root short? It's short because I know the square root of 4. The square root of 4 is 2. And I know the square root of a squared. The square root of a squared is still a. So since I know the square root of the one denominator, but I don't know the square root of the one at the numerator. So that's why I made it short. Now take this one to this side so that x will stay alone. If x stays alone, I'm going to have minus b over 2a plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now LCM of this and this is what? Is 2a. Is 2a. 2a divided by 2a, 1. 1 times this minus b plus or minus 2a divided by 2a, 1 times this, the square root of what? B squared minus 4ac. So this is the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula says what? S is equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over, you see, everybody over, all over 2a. So that is that. So let's solve some question using this thing that we did now. Using this same method, let's solve some question. Okay, the first question said x squared plus 6x plus 4 is equal to 0. Now, if you look at this, I thought that the first thing you do before, first of all, what is completing the square? Completing the square is simply find half of the coefficient of x, square it, and add it to both sides. But before you do that, the coefficient of x squared must be 1, and everybody that have x should be one side. The people that do not have x should be in the other side. So since the coefficient is already 1, no problem. So what we'll now do is just to take this man to this side. So I'm having x squared plus 6x is equal to what? Minus 4. Since you are done with this, now do what is completing the square. And completing the square said find half of coefficient of x is 6. Then what do you do? Square it. And half of 6 is what? 3. So 3 squared. Carry it and add it to both sides. So I'm having x squared plus 6x plus 3 all squared is equal to minus 4. I have added to this side, so I need to add to the other side. Minus 4 plus 3 squared. Now, what do you do here? Factorize. Here has squared, here has squared. Put them in one house. Put their squared outside to show that everybody in that house has a squared. So I'm having minus 4 plus 9 here. So what do you have now? X plus 3 all squared is equal to what? These two will give me 5. Okay? So this will now cross here to have that what? X plus 3 is equal to what? The square root of 5 plus or minus. So this one will now move to have that what? X is equal to minus 3 plus or minus the square root of 5. So finally, the answer is simply x is equal to, take the first one, minus 3 plus the square root of 5. Or x is equal to minus 3 minus the square root of 5. But 5 does not have square root, so This is simply the answer. You see, completing the square method is very simple. Just know what is that completing the square method and you are done. Okay, so let's take another question on completing the square method. So another question on completing the square method. Okay, this one said 20x squared minus 2x minus 6 is equal to 0. So you know the first thing to do, I don't want the coefficient of x squared to have anything. I want the coefficient to be 1. So I will divide everybody by 20. Divide by 20. So I have what? 20x squared divided by 20 minus 2x divided by 20 minus 6 divided by 20 is equal to 0. So what do we have? X squared minus 1 over 10x minus what? 3 over 10 is equal to 0. So now I want all the x to be at one side. So I'm having x squared minus 1 over 10x is equal to 3 over 10. Okay, so now I can do what is completing the square. And completing the square said we should find it somewhere. Find half of the coefficient of x here is minus 1 over 10. So minus 1 over 10. Then we should square it. So what does it mean? 1 times this minus 1. This times this 20 all squared. We have found it, we have squared it. So the next thing to do is to add it to both sides. So if I'm adding it, I'm having x squared minus 1 over 10x plus minus 1 over 20 all squared is equal to 3 over 10 plus minus 1 over 20 all squared. Okay, so we have added to both sides. Since we have added it to both sides, the next thing we are going to do is to factorize that side, the left hand side. If we factorize here, x has squared and minus 1 over 20 has squared, minus 1 over 20 has squared. So put their squared outside to show that everybody has squared. Okay, is equal to, do this side, 3 over 10 plus minus 1 squared is 1, all over 20 squared is 400. 400. So I'm going to have x minus 1 over 20 all squared is equal to, the LCM here is 400. 400 divided by this is 40. 40 times this is 120 plus 4 divided by 1. 1 times is 1. So I'm having x minus 1 over 20 all squared is equal to 121 over 400. Okay, so the square can cross to become square root. So I'm having x minus 1 over 20 is equal to the square root plus or minus 121 over 400. So what do I have now? X minus 1 over 20 is equal to plus or minus 11 over 20. Square root of 121 is 11. Square root of 400 is 20. So this one can now come to this side to have x is equal to 1 over 20 plus or minus 11 over 20. Okay, so let us complete it here. So take the plus, then take the minus. So my answer is now x is equal to 1 over 20 plus 11 over 20, or 1 over 20 minus 11 over 20. So LCM, x is equal to the 20, 1 plus 11. 20, 1 minus 11. So I'm having x is equal to what? 12 over 20, or x is equal to what? Minus 10 over 20. So what am I having? X is equal to what? 2 here 6, 2 here 10, 2 here 3, 2 here 5. So I'm having 3 over 5 here, or minus 1 over 2. Okay, so that is that. So the last one now is using the almighty formula, the quadratic formula. So that's the last one, then we are done. The graphical one is using graph. So, and there's no, my board does not have graph. So using quadratic formula. And don't forget that we derived it. The quadratic formula says what? That x is equal to what? Minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac everybody over 2a. So they gave us a question. I'm going to solve just one question here. They gave us 3y squared minus 4y plus 4 is equal to 0. So simply, I'm having that A is 3, B is minus 4, C is 4. Just put it here. Instead of starting with x, now since it's y, I'll say that what? Y is equal to minus b, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, everybody over 2a. So I'm having y is equal to what? Minus into minus 4 plus or minus the square root of here minus 4 all squared minus 4 into 3 into 4, okay, then everybody over 2 into 3. Okay, so what do we have now? So I'm having that y is equal to minus is plus. So I'm left with 4 plus or minus the square root of 16 minus 4 times 4, 16. 16 times 3. I have 48. Everybody over 2 bracket what? 3, which is 6. Okay, so I'm having that y is equal to 4 plus or minus the square root of 32 minus 32 all over 6. So this is y is equal to, watch the way I'm going to do it, 4 plus or minus square root of 36, 34, 32. Please, the square root of minus is I, is a complex number. So I'm having the root of this all over what? All over 6. So let me separate. Y is equal to 4 plus root 36i all over 6, or 4 minus root 36i all over 6. So that is that. So 32, not 36. Now if I want to reduce 36, number 36, 32, 2 divide 18, 2 divide, is it 18 or 16? 16, 2 divide 8, 2 divide 4, 2 divide 2, 2 divide 1. So I'm having 4 root 2. So I'm having y is equal to 4 plus 4 root 2i all over 6, or 4 minus 4 root 2i all over 6. So I can share it. Y is equal to 4 over 6, or 4 over 6 root 2i, or 4 over 6 minus 4 root 2i over 6. So break it down. That is 2 over 3. So y is equal to what? 2 over 3 plus 2 over 3 root 2i, or 2 over 3 minus 2 over 3 root 2i. Okay? So thank you very much for watching. We appreciate. God bless you. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Please, very important.